Who's that? Oh, that guy. Sorry, I'm looking at, you know, the guy that was wearing the shorts at the beginning? The rat.
Yeah.
He plays Martok's son.
Yeah.
Yeah, didn't know that. Sorry, we're quickly going through Memory Alpha. Anyway, welcome to Star Trek, our continuing adventure through the world of Star Trek.
We read the page so you don't have to.
Exactly. This is your Memory Alpha for when you're driving in the car and trying not to fall asleep. We are joined. Big is back. Big is here. We've missed you, buddy. Thanks for coming and joining us. Otto's joining us. And special guest and chooser of this episode, our chief moderator and very good friend of ours, Mr. Cranky himself. Guys, welcome.
Not that good.
We are here today to discuss.
Sorry, I'm a dick.
We are going to discuss. We're going to move away a little bit from our. We've been doing like early seasons, sort of going through episode by episode and various seasons. We thought, hey, let's throw caution to the wind. Let's do something completely different. And since we had our guest on, Cranky, you've chosen for us Blink of an Eye. What made you choose Blink of an Eye for us to watch from Star Trek Voyager's 6th season?
Wow. Because I couldn't think of anything else to choose. No,
amazing.
It was. I mean, like I said earlier, I struggle to choose particular things when someone says, "What's your favourite episode? Your favourite character?" So, I mean, like I sent Otto a list of the first episodes that came into my head as favourites.
And to be fair, I picked the Voyager one because everyone else was going to pick TNG and DS9. So I'm like, all right, let's go with Voyager.
And this is one of the standout. It's one of my favourite Voyager episodes I remember.
It was a good one.
From when I was a kid, really.
We've just finished watching it, and if you want to watch it along with us, with Frank as well, who joined us, you can sub and join our Discord, and it'll all be there. But so this, for those that don't know, this is the episode where Voyager ends up getting trapped around a planet with a little bit of a temporal misalignment, as it were, where the time down on the planet is happening a lot faster than the time on Voyager, and there's some hijinks that definitely ensue.
Donut planet.
Idle hasn't watched any of this. He's just reading the Memory Alpha summation. So.
Yeah, I wasn't here for the watch.
No, I just started drinking and passed out. The USS Voyager approached the planet rotating 58 times per minute. No, I am reading off Memory Alpha right there. But okay, so first impressions of this episode, I kind of liked it. Like, it was a little bit all over the place at the start, but it had once you kind of got to the Daniel Day Kim bit, I kind of started to align a little bit better. Otto's nodding.
It's a fantastic conceit, sci-fi conceit, to build an episode around. I mean, I think there are a couple of, missteps in execution, but the idea is great. The idea of taking your central cast and making them kind of a mythology for another civilization. I think that's a really fun idea to build around. And we can talk about how we think about it later, but I think it's a great idea for an episode, and I think they do pull it off pretty well across the board.
Yeah, I think it's also said it's like looking at it from looking at Star Trek, looking at Starfleet from a different perspective, from another race's perspective. Quite interesting. Different from the normal Star Trek fare.
I've been watching so much new Trek where you have 10 episodes and like there's music blasting through every minute of it. Everything is high paced.
Flash.
There's action. Yeah, there's flat, and it's like this is the first classic Trek I've watched in a while, and it's like, whoa, the tonal shift is. Yeah. They spend 15 minutes lighting a leather balloon on fire and looking through a telescope, and it's like normally we'd have already introduced the bad guy and defeated him in Star Trek Picard by now. So, it's a big shift. The original series had Wink of an Eye, which is a similar idea, and then TNG did Timescape, which is another similar one where they freeze and go back and forth through time like that. So I think it's, like Big said, great idea. They executed this fairly well, although if you're awake and paying attention to the plot, they stand there talking for what would be in the planet's time, like 40 years about an idea, and then they go to implement it and no time has passed. So that, you gotta stretch a little bit for sci-fi, but it is a good idea on paper.
They are very liberal with the time displacement, aren't they? Like, they send the Doctor down for like, a couple of minutes and he comes back, it's been 3 years, and then like right at the end where they send Daniel Day Kim back down, and it's like nuclear civilization comes back, and now they've got spaceships and can chronometric take people out of time displacement, and he can just beam across with like all this advanced technology in the space of like about 20 years or something, apparently. So yeah, they were very, it was a very sort of like, how far away is Earth from the rest of the galaxy kind of speed of plot. The speed of time was definitely used as kind of a speed of plot in this situation.
Yeah. So how handsome is Daniel Day Kim?
So handsome.
Like top 3 guest stars of all time?
Garrett Wang was definitely worried on the set at that time. Like, it was like, am I being replaced? Like, what's going on?
That's the reason for his hair. That's why his hair was so tall.
Oh, everyone's hair. This episode, like, Taurus's hair, she's like had the little bit going across her face, but like the volume out, it took up half the engineering bay. And like Janeway's was the usual volumetric monster that it is.
I mean, there was probably a deleted scene where she just like promoted him above Ensign Kim on the spot just when he showed up on the ship. So,
yes, thank you, Commander. It's like, what?
It did feel a little bit like it was one of those episodes where they're actually doing a pilot for another show, kind of like Gary 7 was in
Gary
TOS.
7-ish, wasn't it? Yeah.
They do that in a lot of a lot of shows. So I don't know about it particularly what made me think that, but obviously he could be a leading man, and it's such a cool concept. There's a lot of design space, as it were, to explore in that area. So.
Very little Neelix in this episode as well. I mean, there were because they kind of did an all-round with the characters, because we kind of got halfway through the episode and I was thinking, okay, this is kind of going to be a more 7 of 9 and a lot of Janeway's focused episode with them, with occasional like everyone chipping in with a bit of information. Like the Doctor wasn't doing anything, like he just turned up in the bridge scene. I was a bit like, because I haven't watched this episode for like donkey's years, and then all of a sudden he's like, no, I'm going to go down to the planet and live a life and maybe have a son and get really obsessed with like sports that she's never shown any inclination in before.
Yeah.
Did
Neelix even have a line?
Neelix, I don't know.
Neelix,
did he?
no. The only time we saw Neelix was when he was
Janeway.
He was on the bridge looking concerned about that guy when he first came onto the bridge. I think that was the only time we saw Neelix, wasn't it?
Well, when he was pouring the world's slowest cup of coffee.
Yeah.
So. No, actually, that was just really thick Leola root coffee, so that was more in real time.
So this episode,
Idle, you glossed over it like the show did, but yeah, if you look up Klingon foreheads in the Star Trek dictionary, it says "see holographic children," and the reverse is true. They just completely hand wave that, where it's like, don't ask. We just want to give them a kid so we can give them something to do and relate to Gotana Reds. So
unlike most 90s Star Trek, they just forget about it the next day. It's like it's never mentioned again.
Yeah.
Well, it's Voyager, so
exactly. So this episode was written by Michael Taylor. Michael Taylor has quite the impressive list of episodes in Star Trek. He's written for DS9. He's written The Visitor, which is huge, pinnacle episode. Written in the Pale Moonlight, which is one of my favourites at a time. A lot for Voyager, including like Counterpoint, Bride of Chaotica, which it's good to see you can do fun stuff. One Small Step, Collective, Fury as well, and the Workforce episodes as well, and Shattered, which I think Shattered was the good one. Was it Twisted was the bad one? Shattered's the good one, isn't it?
Shattered's a good one, yeah.
Yeah. He's written those, so that's a nice one. This was directed by Gabrielle Beaumont, who did a few things. You can tell I'm just reading. I've done very little prep for this. I'm literally loading Memory Alpha up as we speak. But a lot TNG. So we got Face of the Enemy. I love Face of the Enemy.
WRG made a game out of it.
I know. Very nice. Face of the Enemy, The High Ground, Disaster. I like Disaster. And then like a couple. Well, the only one she did for Voyager was Blink of an Eye, and that's the last thing she directed for any Star Trek production. So, some good credentials in this episode, and it kind of shows because it's a very high concept reusing Star Trek plots, because it's almost a little bit like Who Watches the Watchers in a way as well, with the kind of cultural interference, but kind of touches on a few things without really settling on one. But it's still entertaining. It's nice to see episodes where they kind of go, well, the bridge crew are here, but here's what's happening down on the planet, and we kind of get a few guest actors, like more than, I think it's about 6 extra speaking roles in this, which is kind of uncommon for guest stars on a Star Trek show, probably because of budget.
It was funny. We joked about Kim being replaced, but literally he wasn't in the briefing room when everyone else was, including Doc.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he had about 3 lines, and each time he said, I don't know, or screwed something up. So,
Yeah.
This is probably the era where Garrett Wang was like, I'd like to direct an episode. Can I direct an episode? And everyone was like, no. Because if you ever listen to like the Della Flyers, he was constantly trying to gun for going behind the scenes and doing what, like, you know, Roxanne Dawson and Jonathan Frakes did and getting to be a director. But I don't think they let him. Which is
Like, no, we'll just take his lines away.
Yes, no, you cannot
Give
play
him
with
less to
toys.
do.
Know your place.
Yeah.
No, I mean, if anything, I think my major criticism with how this episode is handled is they start off with putting a lot of the focus on the planet, but and they kind of drop that pretty early on to where most of the reaction is on the ship, and it's with the Voyager crew. And I think they definitely could have leaned into the planet side perspective more. I mean, I'm sure, you know, budget's gonna limit that. There's only so many sets you can build, and yes, they can see you.
I think also you mentioned this. That kind of reminded you of the first episode of Strange New Worlds, didn't it? Where you had like kind of the focus of the planet, sort of like everyone sort of, you know, the big reveal that, oh, the big thing in the sky is actually, oh, it's the Federation. It's the Federation starship that's here, which was another cool sort of perspective, like you said, Frankie. So I kind of like that part. I think that not focusing more on the planet, but then like Living Witness is another one like this as well, where you're focusing on the culture, observing the effects of Janeway and Voyager, of what they've had over time, of, you know, sticking their nose in where they really shouldn't.
The Janeway factor.
Yeah, the Janeway factor. I'm just like, let's just go home.
Braxton was completely right.
Yeah. You know, and you're seeing the reaction, the effects of what has happened since Voyager arrived.
I think the pacing on this episode was probably my biggest criticism. It's very slow to start, and then the last 10 minutes, sort of everything happens, and you kind of left feeling a bit, you know, like they haven't finished it properly. They've just gone, oh, that's finished now, close it out.
Which is hilarious because it kind of mirrors the development on the planet, you know, where you're just watching it along, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it sweeps you off your feet. But
they've got nukes. They've got tricobalt devices. Oh, they've got transporters.
temporal transporters.
Because, you know, one of the things that it reminds me of is, you know, games like, you know, the Civilization series, where you see a planet develop from, you know, prehistory all the way up, and I think they could have leaned into that a little bit more, and because I really enjoy that kind of thing. So I think that was a pretty unexplored thread in all of it. It's just kind of watching the map change a little bit here and there, and
yeah, it was pretty much after the leather balloon they stopped looking at the planet and just stayed on the ship then, didn't they?
Yeah, they kind of went from like weather balloons to like intergalactic starships pretty quickly. I think
as soon as the planet started getting interesting, they pulled away.
Yeah, I think it was something like, you know, about 300 years was passed in total, and they kind of, well, I mean, to be fair, we as humans have really delayed ourselves in terms of scientific output. Maybe they were just actually applied to, like, you know, well, maybe we'll just progress instead of, you know, politics and all this bollocks. So they're actually an enlightened people.
No, but the inherent desire to destroy is still there in their species as well. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and they start wailing on Voyager like, our shields are... Yeah, the shields went down pretty quick, but if you think about it, it's quite clever because they're getting hit at, like, you know, hundreds of times a minute. You know, the people on the surface are firing like rockets, fire rocket, but at Voyager's perspective, it's coming at you like a, you know, like a fucking nail gun, just rapid fire machine gun or something like that. So that's pretty cool. I liked that idea that they couldn't really do anything or defend themselves because they were stuck in this temporal distortion, being hit by like 1 billion gnats at the time, and it took the shields down. But as per usual, as soon as the shields go down, they go, aha, we have fixed it. You know, Daniel Day-Kim goes down and saves the day, and then you see him as an old man looking up the stars and seeing Voyager disappear.
I think they could have showed a little bit of the Doc on the planet, a bit of his life on the planet.
Yeah.
Let us give us a little look into that.
Oh yeah, budget.
Well, this is it. This is why we had a few rocks and a very quick leather balloon, as the main kind of, you know, you cannot eat this fruit, and that's the, you know, with the native indigenous people.
And the reused Cardassian headpieces.
Very true.
With the sides cut off.
They just have to pass around, you know, Martha Hackett's headpiece until it got finally worn out.
Yeah, it's like we spent all of our budget on these dragon fruits. That's, you know, that's a shot.
Yeah, we had to make them edible. Why? It's believable. Genetically modify them. Okay, let's have a look. Let's go for best moments and worst moments. Cranky, you are our established guest today. Favorite moment and worst moment, please.
Oh, I think my favourite moment, probably for the wrong reasons, was Seven saying that, oh, it's okay, we only destroyed a small portion of the equatorial region of the planet. It's fine.
Like, it's been an earthquake for like 15 years.
Yeah, we've only wiped out 15,000 people. It's fine. There's nothing. They can cope. Worst moment.
It's also his best moment, by the way. Oh no, that was your best moment. Wow. I'm not sure we can have you back on the show, Craig. You're a little bit violent.
Yeah, the worst moment was when they saved the day. No, I don't know. I can't think of a worst moment. I'll come back to me on that one. I'll think it.
Okay,
think it
Big.
through.
How about you?
Okay, well, my best moment, I think, is kind of not really a moment, but like a philosophical concept inside of the plot, which, I mean, they do reference more directly, but is just the idea of Voyager being there, visible in the sky, driving the development of that planet and giving them a reason to accelerate and grow. I really like that idea. And I think it's clever because it's not necessarily something that you would even think of most of the time in a sci-fi story, especially in a Star Trek story where it's always like, you know, prime directive, got to stay away, out of view. So not only are they in view, they are, you know, one of the prime motivators of that entire civilization. So I think that's cool. Worst moment. I thought it was kind of cheesy that there was no way for Voyager to know that space capsule was coming to their ship and that there were people on the ship, even with the conceit of obviously they're moving significantly faster than them, so, you know, it wouldn't necessarily register, but I still think that there would be some kind of, that would be something that they would be watching for.
They managed to make it all the way to the bridge with no one noticing.
Yeah, so that seems... Well,
let me know. That's
similar. Don't they have...
Don't know.
I may have missed it in story, but don't they have their shields up the whole time, and that's what like the shimmering is
That's true, yeah.
is creating? So how did a little metal capsule
I suppose
get through
the shimmering
shields?
is kind of like the shields phasing, you know, it's like it's rotating. So if you're approaching the ship, you probably see the shields physically rotating. You probably shoot between them. Like, I can imagine there's I don't know, some techno babble to explain it.
Yeah, that's a bit of a stretch, but yeah.
Yeah, but you say, was it, someone mentioned before, like wink of an eye, and that was the similar conceit of like beings that were moving too fast to be noticed by the Enterprise crew on TOS. So that's kind of the same kind of thing. Like, but they did end up detecting them after a while. But I suppose the difference, yeah, it's similar conceit.
That technology is old and obsolete now. It's gone.
Absolutely, yeah.
They don't use that anymore.
Kirk like just wiped the log. All right, Auto, best and worst moment.
I'm going to be a little bit harder on my star pupil because I know he can do better. The Doc stuff wasn't all great. Holographic sperm Like you're just gonna gloss over that. I know they wanted to give him something to do, and it could have been interesting if they'd have given you a little more explanation there. And then yeah, the whole walk and talk with suddenly he's into sports thing, which I know he golfs or whatever, but as great as an actor as Bob Picardo is, I wasn't necessarily buying that. So it is a cool sci-fi concept. Obviously, they do it a lot that you send the doctor to do what no human can do. But it didn't land for me quite as much, and it wasn't even the worst moment. It just stuck out to me. Best moment was when they step foot on Voyager. That's such a great sci-fi idea. Where even if we were talking about it as we watch, wouldn't like stuff float after they let go of it or get frozen in time? Even though you can't nail down all the correct aspects of it, it's something that makes you think and something that makes you want to discuss it, and you're engaged at that point in the story. So I love that moment that they let them wander around a little bit before they integrated them into the timeline.
Okay. This is where Star says, "Oh, what about you, Idol?"
And your best and worst moment. You just want to hear your name called by the boys.
Hey. I think my best moment was the conversation between... Did his character get a name, Daniel Day Kim? I'm sure he did. Oh, well, anyway, Daniel Day Kim.
Gaetano Retz.
Oh, Gaetano Retz. Yeah. His character and Janeway sitting down and have their chat about what was going on, basically, and them talking about, like, him coming to this realization of, like, oh, wow, this is... And also part of that, the initial moments of them walking on the ship, like, you got to imagine this thing has been in the sky for like centuries. No one's set foot, no one's seen it, no one knows what it is. And he's suddenly gone on there, got readjusted, and is now suddenly talking to what it is to be a god among their people. And there's a nice little chat between him and Janeway, where him being a reasonable, level-headed scientist just kind of goes like, yeah, this is good. I'm reasonable. I'm acclimatizing to this, and this kind of makes a lot more sense. The worst... Go on.
I want to ask you about that because there's a similar scene in Who Watches the Watchers, where the Mintakan throws herself at Picard's feet, and
the Picard,
says, "Yeah, you're God," and he says, "I'm not a god," and they have the same explanation thing as she looks up
that
when he's a planet.
Yeah. He's not a god. He's a very naughty boy.
So we always give Patrick Stewart his flowers for that. What percentage, in your opinion, is the great concept of that conversation, and how much of it is just the actors knocking it out of the park?
A bit of both. I mean, you could probably distill the writing down to its basic tropes, but I think like having... Kate Mulgrew with her child, you sit down with a cup of coffee with Kate Mulgrew, with her smiling the way she does when she's paying attention to someone intently. Oh, melts your heart. I wish someone paid me that much attention in my life. I really do. But, with Daniel Day Kim on the other side of it, it's just like, yeah, this is too...
If you were as handsome as Daniel Day Kim, she'd look at you that way.
Yeah, absolutely, yes.
Got him.
Exactly. But yeah, no, you are right. Like the acting definitely lends a part to what it is. But acting leads off the script, and I think it was a good conversation. Worst moment for me is just I've said it before, like the whole sort of like how quickly they developed, how slowly they developed. I was all the way into it saying like, okay, this makes a reasonable amount of sense, 3 seconds here for 20 years there, a couple of briefings later, and then there's a couple, they've got nuclear war. But then it kind of got to the point where he beams down with them having kind of like 1960s technology, and then when he beams back up, it's clearly more advanced than the Federation, despite the fact it being about 20-30 years his time. So it was kind of a little bit of suspension of disbelief there, maybe.
Actually, you know what, I gotta revise my worst moment of the episode. It's the Naomi Wildman, hey, I'm also on this show scene.
Yeah.
So
that's the magic of 24 episodes, baby.
Yeah.
It's
like that has no bearing.
I really.
It's like it was a decent 7 moment, but other than that, it was just completely superfluous.
I think, like you say, Otto, like the 24 episode season gives it like you see these like little bits of like Seven and Naomi building up the character arc that they have, despite Voyager not really having much of serialized format. You do get a little bit of that, the relationships between characters. I like the Seven and Naomi relationship of her being the reluctant mentor. No, that was kind of cool. But yeah, you are right. It's a little bit of like, I'm here. I submitted my school project.
See, I'm not a big Naomi fan, but I quite like the episode. I think there's an episode where Seven gets other personalities from the Borg or whatever, her connection.
The vinculum.
Yeah, and she becomes a child and in personality and becomes friends with Naomi that way. And I quite like that one. That was quite a good episode.
Yeah.
I was going to bring that up because Naomi Wildman would not exist in a 10-episode season. Like, you would cut the Trevis and Flotter episode, you would cut that scene out of Seven's personalities and all that stuff. So for better or for worse, she does add to other people's stories as well as building her own. But yeah.
Okay, have you thought of your worst moment yet, Cranky?
Well, I think you kind of took my worst moment because I was going to say sort of but it's kind of the ending, the way it ends. Because
you can,
like I said
we've
earlier
never
on,
established a rule. You can pick someone else's worst moment. Like, you don't have to have a wholly original idea. You can just say, no, I agree with this.
It was kind of what you said, but with the ending, the fact that it all just gets really rushed at the end.
Yeah, it is a rushed ending.
So suddenly the titles come up and you're like, oh, it's finished.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, but at least Star Trek Voyager decided never to end anything that abruptly ever again over the run of the series. So, they learned their lesson. Right?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, well.
I love you, Commander, and you're dead.
Dear. All right, I think it's time. Well, since in lack of stars, we need someone to give our how many ratings out of whatever. Otto, you are pointing at yourself, please. What are you thinking here?
Stars, I hope you're watching. How many tender Catherine Janeway finger caresses of Doc's head crater out of 10 would you give this episode? We'll start with Big McLarge.
She does put a finger in there. All
Stars could not have done that better.
The only thing that would have made that better was if she licked it first.
Yeah.
I mean, all in all, it's a competent or better execution of a great idea for a story. I mean, that's kind of damning it with faint praise, but it's good. It's good. To me, that's 8 out of 10.
Generous. Otto.
Cranky. I said first.
All right, sorry, no, cranky.
Well, yeah, I think I agree with Big on that. It's a good, wholesome sci-fi episode. And I mean, in terms of Star Trek, they kind of throw the Prime Directive out the window and don't care about all that stuff.
They do say, like, this we're already influencing the culture. Like, the Prime Directive is already gone. Like,
I am the culture.
But yeah, I think in general it's a good episode. It's got its downsides, but it's good in general. And I think 8 out of 10 is a decent score for it.
Otto.
I was praised. I forget the name of it. I think it's New Eden is the name of the Discovery episode that I like the best. It's a bottle episode. You know, they beam down, they make first contact, that kind of thing. And like I said, it's a whiplash going from all the new Trek stuff back to this. And so, you know, my grade might change after watching more Voyager. But it did feel like, one of those like chicken noodle soup things where you sit down for an hour, you got an hour of your life, you're going to get a whole story from beginning to end. It's going to have a great concept. And so I like it. It wasn't anything special. Like, it doesn't stick with you a long time. I'm talking too much. 8.4. Janeway head fingerings out of 10.
8.4. Wow. I think I'll go for a 7.5. Like you say, like, it is a comfortable. You know, I am just wanting to binge watch some Star Trek. I just want something either like I know what I'm getting out of it. I'm ill, like you say, chicken noodle. I'm ill. I'm eating some chicken soup. I'm binging some telly, or I'm just want to flick Voyager on a random a random episode just to get to sleep because my insomnia is really killing me, which I have done before. But yeah, no, it
This is
solid.
starting to sound more like an insult than a compliment. It puts me in
It's,
sleep.
no, in a good way. Like I need that. Like if you do want that comfortable episode of television just to enjoy, you don't have to think too much. You don't have to absorb in. Don't have to think, oh shit, what happened 3 episodes earlier? Or like, where's the twist coming here? What things are going? Like you're just watching it. There it is. That's what's happening. So I'm gonna go for me. That's a 7.5. I think like 8 for me ranks excellence, but I'm happy with that episode. I think that is just some good television, some good watching. And I'd give you the average, but I can't say the average on the moment. But I'm sure someone out there with math skills can work out it's probably around an 8.1 or a 7.9. So, any final thoughts on this episode? Like, I think personally, like, you're right, Otto. Like, I've literally come off watching the season finale of Picard season 3 today. Coming from that to this is like, yeah, it's whiplash. It's like suddenly the serialized content and like action explosion and all this blah 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 to like, and some Star Trek, like just some
And so much pan flute, by the way. They really have.
they definitely broke the pan flute
Dug into
budget.
the library for that one.
Yeah,
But like you say, it's comfortable. It's recognizable and comfortable, and you just instantly sort of slip into that mood that you know from watching all Star Trek.
Meanwhile, you're just venting on Star Trek timelines on your phone, occasionally looking up and go, "Oh, it's Daniel Day Kim," and look down again.
yeah. But it is. It's one of those episodes you can dip in and out of, and you know what's going on.
Yeah, it helps the structure of it from beginning to end has a very clear path, with their growth. So yeah.
Well, and it feels like just the stakes are there, but they're very in the background. Like, yes, they try and destroy Voyager at the end, but for the most part, you're just kind of following the story of, So that
it doesn't even feel like that with the crew as well. They're watching this planet evolve, and even they're watching the TV screen, going like, "Oh, this is interesting." Like Chakotay sends the probe out to go take pictures and like self-destruct it, and like, "Oh, what's happening now? Oh, they've developed pornography. Oh, fantastic! Isn't that advanced?"
And on that note,
the Real Housewives of the Southern Continent.
Yes.
Chakotay was just happy to be stood in astrometrics with Seven at one point.
He was very much so. Yes, his Robert Beltran knew what he was looking at. Anyway, join us in a couple of weeks for the next Star Trek. And if you haven't already, come and join our Discord, bit.ly/trek_time. Check our website, all that kind of stuff. Details are down below in the comments. And we will see you in a couple of weeks. Check our other videos out. Live long and prosper. Ta-ra!